Yes, here is Michelle. Thank you, big voice guy. As we look at our weekend review, we get you entertained as well. Everything you need for the weekend, we pack into this podcast. And on top of everything, after the show today, you will be officially plugged in.
I'm pretty cool. Plugging you into the movies, this is Adam Holmes.
And now we're on video, and so he can't cringe when I play this. The man who never has a bad hair day, Adam Holmes.
I'm having a bad hair life, but it's actually a beautiful thing. I shaved my head in 1996, and I haven't been to a barber since. And
I've been thinking about it until COVID hit, and then it didn't really matter anymore, right?
Who cares? I mean, honestly, we're all on video. We all look 10 pounds fatter on video. Ourselves.
That's all right.
So here we are.
And we all probably are because of lockdown. So there you go as well.
Right.
We get you plugged into the movies and so much more. In fact, Adam represents pluggedin.com. They do movies, they do television shows, they review YouTube channels, music, video games, and books. Pretty much pop culture all on one site. And the focus is something that you don't get out there. You can get people's opinions and you can, hear. And Adam, we talk opinion at times.
Well, I have no shortage of opinions. You will get that.
But you go deeper and you let folks know for their families what to expect. You don't tell them what to think. You give them the tools to think and decide for their families. And I love it. We've been doing this for some time. And today we're going to talk more than movies. There's some TV shows as well to connect with and much more. And I just want to say WandaVision is getting really interesting.
Oh, my word. Loving WandaVision. So
crazy.
Each episode, I'm like, what are they going to do now? And I'm not going to spoil last week's, but I think minds were blown last week again on this show. They keep, insert meme here, that one with the guy's head, doing that.
Head explodes.
No, it's fantastic. And I also love from a plugged in perspective that they really haven't pushed the boundaries content wise. I mean, you've got a smattering of profanity and, an occasional slightly off color joke, but not even much of that really. So as superhero shows go, it's a good one. You could mostly watch it with your kids. It's gotten a little bit creepier here and there, but still relatively clean by 2021 TV standards.
Indeed. So WandaVision for some people, seriously, they watched the first episode and then the second episode went, okay, this is really stupid. If I wanted to watch a black and white sitcom, I'd look at old I Love Lucy's,
right.
Or Father Knows Best. Thank you very
Big
much.
Van Dyke or something like that.
What the heck? But
yeah.
But if you engage in WandaVision, you have to realize that you're going to see things that you're not going to realize you're seeing. There's a deeper story, and they take you deeper each episode. It's imaginative, and for those who are engaged with the Marvel Universe, there are tie-ins from other movies and other shows. There's a tie-in that will take place, from what I understand, with the Winter Soldier and Falcon. So that movie will be coming out. That was made first, actually. So there is a kind of a logical crossover that many fans might understand or get. But here is what is good to me. They do that without losing.
Elizabeth Olsen is just a revelation. Now, I say that having seen a bunch of films she's been in. I've never seen her in a bad role. She just has one of those faces that she does stuff with.
Oh,
like
weird.
A serial killer, but she does stuff with her face that really, I mean, she's remarkable and she pulls it off. Like, there are a lot of actresses that couldn't pull off what she is doing as Wanda Maximoff. And Paul Bettany's great too, but half the time he's in, red makeup on his face. So it's not it's not quite in the same territory in terms of what
Maybe,
he
but
is
I
being.
think he is a classic actor. He, to me,
Yeah.
has always been a very, very classic actor in the classic regard, meaning that it's not just about a pretty face, and I'm not judging his face, but he is, he, excuse me. I don't know if if he is indeed, but he seems like a classically trained actor where
Yeah.
it's all about the acting. You see that a lot in British actors, and that's kind of
Yeah.
a bummer that they're always shipped over here and taking the lead roles. And it's because that's where they put the emphasis. Can I just stop right here and say Benedict Cumberbatch? He is not the poster boy for can I say the word hotness? But you adore him.
He's got
because
that
his
voice, right? I
the
mean,
voice. Yeah.
he's his voice. It's you just want to listen. He could read the phone book if anybody still had a phone book. It would be great.
Yeah, that ages us right there. Boom. Thank you very much.
I know, right? What's a phone book, Dad? I don't know.
Phone book. Phone book. People used to have little black books too, so millennials look that up. There you go.
I know,
We're
right?
I'm not gonna divulge what that is. All right. So let's talk for a moment some other television shows. You and I obviously couple of woohoos for WandaVision. Wow.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it, I think your family will enjoy it. And there's other TV shows. I'm looking at the plugged in page right now. One thing I was hoping we could talk about is Young Rock.
Yeah. Young Rock is a show that is exactly what you would think it is. It's like, is that about The Rock? Yes, it is about The Rock when he was young. And it's sort of an imaginative looking back at his life. The series is set in 2032. Rock is running for president, and we sort of get this flashback to, what he might have been like as a kid. And this is a pretty typical network sitcom in that you're going to get some language, you're going to get, a slightly dirty joke here or there. It's not terrible. It's not great from a content perspective. It's just sort of right in the middle.
It is. And if you like The Rock, you might find some of it charming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
that's the draw.
I didn't hate it, but I went in going, what's the real purpose of this?
Well, if your name is on the marketing materials, quote, I didn't hate it. It's what's the phrase, damning with faint praise, It sort of feels like of all the sitcoms made this year, this is one of them. So
yeah. And The Rock is a good guy. He's a charming guy. The watching stories, whether true or not, about his growing up, some of them are funny, and it can be endearing. So if you're a Rock fan, you might like it, but
yeah.
If I didn't watch it again, I think I would go on with my life and maybe even succeed.
You would probably be okay. So as long as we're talking about TV, now if you're a hardcore fan, you've already watched it. But if you've somehow missed it, When Calls the Heart, season 8 started last weekend.
Okay.
And,
yeah.
We don't have a review up, but it's coming. So if you're wondering what we think about it, hold your breath and it will come. But this is a story that is produced by Michael Landon Jr. And it actually feels in some ways, in a really broad way, not too far removed from Little House on the Prairie. It's about a Canadian town, I think early 20th century, late 19th century, early 20th century, because they have cars. And it's just, kind of a throwback period piece drama of the relationships between all of these people in this little town of Hope Valley. I think it's in British Columbia in the show. And if you want something nice with characters that you like we started the show, there's one main character, and I'm not sure how you pronounce her last name. It's either Erin Krakow or Krakow. Do you know how her last name is produced?
I don't know.
Well, anyway, she's like the main character, and she's one of the producers on it. Rocky Mountain, whatever they are. They're wear the red coats. The Mountie.
A Mountie. He's a Mountie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're literally, when they're in relationship with each other, we're cheering for the Mountie and we're booing the other guy. I mean, it's like watching Wind Calls the Heart with my daughters and my wife is like a full contact sport. So if you have watched it before and you didn't know it was coming back, it's back, and it's just as delightful as the previous 7 seasons, which we have completely binged in the last year or so.
There you go. Right. And I've watched the past. I'm not going to lie. In the first few seasons, obviously Elizabeth has a child. She was married before to another Mountie named Jack.
Yes.
When
who died.
he decided to exit the show, I just thought, oh, that's sad. I don't watch this for sad. I'm not watching it anymore. So I took a hiatus. Right. I'm ready to go back. It really is a charming family show.
It's really great.
I know that Little House on the Prairie is now canceled. And I'm sure you know that, right?
I know that.
Yeah. Because
and the Waltons is also canceled.
My gosh, my favorite. And why was the Waltons canceled again?
Well, I mean, it was canceled 40 years ago. Yes, why was the Waltons canceled again? I don't know, I don't know. We could speculate.
Probably they have a strong faith element. That's the only thing I can see. There's no races. I know that the hard thing is understanding that when you look at period pieces, now we're making period pieces like Bridgerton, strong sexual content, by the way, but Bridgerton.
Oh, yes.
And other period pieces that we're remaking, like Hamilton, and making it multicultural. And while I think there's a place for that, you lose the historical content.
Right. No,
and
that's
when
exactly
when
right.
It's not in context, you lose the ability to learn from the mistakes made. Little House on the Prairie, for example, was made. It was written by Laurel Ingalls Wilder about 3 years after slavery was abolished. So you get a wonderful look at what it looked like to transition, and how there were some people that looked at people as people, and others who were still backwards. I don't get it, but you won't have any of that conflict in Wind Calls the Heart. So
no, you won't. You've just got
snowflakes.
Wonderful story that you don't have to worry, is this thing going to go off the rails in ways that I'm reaching for the remote to mute it or to change the channel.
So charming. So charming.
And there aren't very many shows on today that you can really say that about. Even stuff that's on network TV, I mean, where we have gotten to is there's an expectation of a certain amount of profanity, of crudity, and on some of the dramas, you get a lot of violence, and it's even amazing what they can get away with in terms of sexual content. You may not have frontal nudity, but you certainly know what's going on. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's some things that are just have become a social given. That if you are interested in someone, you sleep with them. If you work with someone, you'll probably end up sleeping with them. If it's just like, what? One of the things that's actually on Plugged In that you review in TV is 9/11. And I find that of all the emergency shows, I find it really well done, and their stories are interesting. Their calls are unusual, and in that it's fun to watch. You care about the characters, but you always wonder, why does everyone inbred sleeping with each other all the time? That doesn't necessarily happen in real life.
Yeah, and you also have to say to yourself, I have worked a lot of places. There were never this many stunningly beautiful people at the places that I have ever worked, let alone the fire department.
Well, you're obviously in the wrong line of work, and everybody who works with you right now is going, great. Thanks, Adam. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe half of them are stunning, but there's the other half that are anchoring. I told one of my coworkers the other day, I said, we need to do a podcast, and we can call it the Middle-Aged White Bald Guy Podcast.
Canceled.
You gotta play the hand you're dealt. Why just avoid the reality here?
Oh, you're a charmer right there. So we talked a bit of television. Maybe it's time to delve into some movies.
Yes. And, you and I, when we talk, Michelle, usually I talk from the perspective of reviews that we have already published, because as a movie review outlet, we typically get stuff early. This is a weird week in that our two biggest movies this week are Tom and Jerry and Bigfoot Family, which I know, right after Star Wars comes Tom and Jerry. People are waiting with bated breath.
Yes.
Yet been able to screen those. The studios have not gotten us screeners ahead of time, which is usually a tell that these are not going to be Oscar caliber films. So
right.
Those reviews up by sometime later this weekend. But one of the other things I wanted to talk about, each year at Plugged In, we do what we call our Plugged In Music Awards. No, Plugged In Movie Awards. We don't do music awards. And we pick nominees in 4 different categories: best children's film, best films for teens, for adults, and best Christian movies. And here's how the process works. We put the nominations on our blog, and those went up this week. They are all there, and we invite people to vote. And in a couple of weeks, we will do a vote as a team. We're actually filming it. It'll be on our Plugged In Show podcast, so you can see our deliberations. So we'll have a Plugged In pick for each one of those categories. And then later on, we'll announce the reader's pick as well. And so we just like taking a look back over the year and saying, what were some of the best things that came out that families with children of different ages might want to engage in? So that is all up on our blog right now, and we can talk as much about that as you feel like.
Yeah, I'm interested in some of the big picks that we can look at. It makes it fun for the audience as you're listening to watch these films and weigh in. What do you
absolutely
think? So that's part of the whole fun of it. Make your picks, and I'd like to hear from you too. So you can find us at MyMichelleLive.com, where we'll also have links, of course, as always, to Adam Holtz, because, well, he's pretty cool.
And I am pretty cool. Tell my friends from high school, because it only took me 40 years after graduating to get there, but whatever. No, I'm not bitter much.
So let's talk about some of the picks from some of these categories.
Yeah. Let's start out with best movies for kids. The 5 movies that we picked this year in our best movies for kids. You know what? My computer is wigging out. Give me just a second.
No worries. We're just live. It's okay.
It's got one of those little the little track things with the ball on it in the middle of the keyboard, and I've used it so much it's worn through. It's now just a sharp little stick, and it doesn't work very well. Anyway, that's a lot of information about the laptop that I'm working on. So our 4 best movies for kids this year are Black Beauty, which I didn't know this until we did this version. We reviewed this version. The book came out in 1877. I think there have been 4 or 5 different movie iterations.
What?
Wow. Story that has been around a long time. And has come at it again. And it's a great story about a girl and a horse. So Crude's the New
Classic.
Age. Yeah. No, it really is a classic. And I think, honestly, how can you go too wrong with a beautiful horse? That's what I always say.
and this
My
last
kids were here, they would say, Dad, you have never actually said that. And I would say, yeah, but I'm going to start saying it from now on.
This last iteration, incarnation, whatever you'd like to call it, is pretty charming as well. Pretty cool, beautifully done, heartwarming, just a really good watch. And can I just be honest? When you see something remade and remade, and then remade, and then, it's been a year and a half or 2 years, and then remade, Spider-Man, I don't know, whatever. Right? You're like, okay, I've seen this, but this is actually worth the see. It is.
It's a lovely story, and I think there are people who like horse movies and people who like dog movies, and if you're a horse movie person, I think you'll enjoy this, and it's one that's really suitable for kids too.
Little Women, there's another one that's remade and remade and remade and remade. And I'll tell you what, this last one, even though it's always a beautiful story and I will always watch it, this last one was just a little preachy, not in a good way. It's women independence, and that's really not in the spirit of the film. But once again, with cancel culture, we have to remake everything in our own image, do we not?
Oh boy. I mean, I think we could go 90 minutes just talking about the insanity of cancel culture. And I mean, every week it seems like there are new people who have in some way stepped afoul of, a very tight orthodoxy on what you can do and what you cannot do. And what
we talked last week about Gina Carano and Disney, and that is one of the saddest things, because they essentially proved her point. And unfortunately, in our day and age where we have the wealth of human knowledge at our fingertips, I still hear people saying, well, she was comparing Republicans to the Jews during the Holocaust. And I was like, well, you drew that conclusion. What she really said was, look, the Nazis didn't wake up one day and say, hey, what do you want to do today? Let's round up the Jews. It was a process where people started hating each other, canceling each other. And is that where we're kind of looking at today? We need to be careful. Now, I want to bring this back, because this is fascinating. It has a lot to do with the topic of entertainment, because it's happened before in our country. It was during the McCarthy era, and it really did affect people in entertainment.
Right. No, and obviously during that era, it was the Red Scare. And so you had this sort of, I'll use the phrase witch hunt in quotes, where there was a suspicion that someone was participating in that political ideology, they were blacklisted. And there are all sorts of layers of ways that we can think about it. But, with the original witch hunts back in Salem, it just became, if there was a hint of suspicion, you're done. And there's no conversation, there's no ability to deal with nuance, there's no ability to even acknowledge that, well, what if somebody just has a different perspective? And I think that we're seeing something broadly similar now, in that if you don't toe a progressive political and cultural party line, it doesn't take much to end up on the wrong list.
No. And I think we've seen it from a religious perspective. There's the idea of stay away from even the appearance of evil. Do not be unevenly yoked. And so it's okay, then we justify canceling because, well, they're evil. And that's what we're doing all through the political spectrum as well. But when there is an element of faith, and I think this is really important, when there's an element of faith, Jesus dined with the people that everyone else canceled.
Absolutely.
We have, go ahead, Adam. That's a huge, important point.
You want to talk about somebody being canceled. I mean, let's talk about Jesus being canceled. The culture wanted to cancel him because he was a perceived threat to the status quo on many levels. And that's just one layer. Obviously, there's a deeper theological conversation to be had there. But the ruling Jewish hierarchy wanted him gone because he didn't play by the rules, and he didn't say the right thing, and he didn't do the right thing.
It was the religion of the day, and our religion of the day is politics. But here's the interesting thing, though. Even as Jesus hung out with the canceled people, when you really indulge in faith, you see freedom and acceptance, because God accepts you as you are. And you see people who really walk in faith, not religion, but faith, are the very people who will say, you think differently. Your moral code may be different than mine. The way that you choose to live, who you love, what you identify as, is different. But you know what? I love you. I love you. And I think that's something that affects, I know we're talking reviews, but let's bring it home, Adam. It when we go too far down this road, it really does start to affect even something as simple as what we watch in the theater or on our television screens.
Well, yeah, because those messages, those worldviews, and those narratives permeate everything that is happening. And so every time we watch a TV show, every time we watch a movie, and I try to work with this with my kids, it's, we talk a lot about content. It's got X number of sex scenes or profanities.
Yeah.
Those are really important things. But I think that we've also got to focus on the big picture of, well, what's the worldview? What is this piece of artistic entertainment? And it can be songs or video games or a YouTube channel. Everybody has a perspective, and they're communicating something from that perspective. And we need to be willing to take the time to actively engage with that and to help our kids engage with it, so that we can understand, there's a point of view being communicated here. Let's talk about that. Maybe we agree with it. Maybe we like it. Maybe we don't like it. But I think that when we just get sort of ghettoized and it's like, well, these people are okay and this stuff is all terrible, we actually lose the ability to think critically. And we need to be training up our children to think critically, as opposed to just, does this soundbite put them in this camp or this camp? We've short-circuited our ability to think critically in so many ways, and entertainment plays a role in that.
It's time for us to look to our yays and nays, the good, the bad, the ugly, the pick of the week, and the put it in the trash pick of the week. Would you like to go with the pick of the week first?
Let's go with the pick of the week first, and I'm going to let you go first on this one.
You got it. So,
as I think about my pick of the week,
you got to mull it over, pray on it a little bit, do a little meditation. And okay, yeah, I gotcha. Take your mo. So my pick of the week is a kind of a silly one. It's Sonic the Hedgehog. It's now available. It's free for those who have a subscription, so you don't have to pay extra to see Sonic the Hedgehog. And, maybe it is not Oscar worthy, like we're not expecting Tom and Jerry, but you watch the film and it's in some ways silly. Jim Carrey's character is a bit over the top, and let me just set the stage. If you don't know what Sonic is, a long time video game made into a movie. The big controversy wasn't anything content-wise. It was, how did Sonic eventually end up looking? Because his first creation was so creepy, they had to go back and remaster it. Sonic the Hedgehog is it's a kid family movie, in some ways a little over the top, but it's fun and it's distracting, and it's for me, it's the kind of movie you put on in a big screen in the backyard, invite your neighbors over, and just have fun. You're not going to be indoctrinated into groupthink. You're just going to walk away going, okay, that was fun. I had a fun night. My pick of the week.
Well, my pick of the week is take us back to 2003. And I had to go back that far because it's been a pretty quiet week movie-wise, so I don't have anything new that's out. But as long as we're talking about Paul Bettany, let's talk about his movie with Russell Crowe, Master and Commander. Incomparable director Peter Weir. And this is, as you might have guessed, a movie about a boat and a journey that is taken. And honestly, I don't think I have seen it since 2003, but the reason I'm picking it is that on Netflix and Amazon and all these services, each month there's new stuff that comes and goes. So it's not a new movie, but it's new on Netflix this month. So you should be able to watch that. And it's a terrific drama. And I actually remember I was going through something really, really difficult in my life at that particular moment. I remember sitting in the theater watching Master and Commander in December of 2003, and it was just a terrific escape. And I think Russell Crowe at the top of his game and Paul Bettany at the top of his game. I mean, two guys with great accents on a ship. What more do you want?
Yeah, it's not it's not that it's not a family film, but there's not it is very much a drama. There
Yes.
is some action, but it's not necessarily action the kids are going to get into. But
Right.
you'd have to know your kids in order, and you
Right.
can, these old films, you can go to pluggedin.com and they give you a nice long review. It's so
Yeah.
much more. I've always thought Plugged In was important. I think it's even more important now when most of us are at home a lot more. It gives us a chance to go, okay, instead of scrolling through Netflix and Prime and Disney and whatever to try to find something and wasting so much time. By the end of the time you find something, you could have watched a feature film. You can go to
Right.
Plugged In, and this is what I do, Adam. I go to Plugged In and I scroll through some of the old films and go, oh, that might be good, or oh, I forgot about that, or oh,
Yeah.
Master and Commander, and then it's a little easier that way.
And
Backdoor.
I want to do a bonus pick, which is really like 18 picks. Again, come over to our blog and check out our plugged in movie review picks, plugged in movie award picks in all of those different categories. We sort of started with the kids category and we took a sidetrack and a sidetrack. So I'm segueing back briefly. I'm not going to read through each of those lists, but there's some terrific stuff that we have picked out from the last year and it's a year where, unlike most years, there's a lot of stuff on here that you might have not have seen because theaters haven't been open. So it's been an unusual last 12 months, that's for sure.
Yeah, it has indeed. So a good thing to do, and let's spend a little more time next week talking about the categories and the movies. Now it's time for maybe you should stay away from it.
You know, unfortunately, this is one of those weeks where I have a long list of stay and in fact, it's so many that I'm hard pressed to choose just one. But
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
There's a new a new TV show on Netflix called Behind Her Eyes.
It is that thing is disturbing and creepy and
I think actually you mentioned it last week, but it's one we have our review up for now, and anything that would blow David Cronenberg's mind is certainly going to blow the rest of our minds, and not in a good way. But it's Eve Hewson is in it, Bono's daughter, and it's gotten a lot of buzz, and it's very edgy. And sometimes things in our culture, edgy is code for we have gone to new extremes because we're also desensitized that we're just trying to get your attention. And this one sort of feels like it's in that neck of the woods.
Yeah, you can start with the first, oh my goodness. If you even make it through the first episode, because there's that, I don't know, there's an intellectual draw to it. There is, to a degree. It's mysterious and what's really going on here, and you want to figure it out. So they cleverly do draw you in. That's well done. But the content
it's well done.
is disturbing and graphic, and when you make it to the end, it's so depressing, so depressing that you wish you never indulged.
The twist is, ew. I mean, it's just gross.
It's gross. You know? It's sad, and the reason it's important is that not only are you investing your time, but you and I bring this up again and again. And if you're new to this Adam Michelle Hangout thing, we talk about the redemptive quality, and I'm not just talking on a spiritual level, but when you watch a film, the disturbing matter can sometimes be endured. And I'm not talking over the top disturbing, but disturbing matter needs to have some kind of redemptive ending in order to justify it, in order for you to walk away and go, gosh, I feel changed by that. I feel moved by that. I understand that. The world is disturbing, but there is, when you see messages of hope, it kind of brings it into context. And that's what I need to be able to watch something disturbing. There would have to be some pretty redemptive qualities though.
Now this one is an exercise in disturbing for disturbing's sake. You just sort of feel like somebody woke up one morning and said, I'm going to tell a story, and we're going to just keep twisting this thing. And there's
there's no feeling good after that. Like there's you really need an emotional and mental shower. So I'm kind of with you on that. Another one, it's being pushed on Prime, is Coming to America 2. Now that's not going to be out till March 5th, but the obvious suggestion is they're playing Coming to America 1, and that was back in the 80s. Arsenio Hall, Eddie Murphy, big names from the 1980s.
Sorry, I have to get my Arsenio on.
Maybe you forget after all these years, or maybe you haven't seen it. Eddie Murphy, obviously very funny, but that movie is I'm sorry, there's some funniness to it, but it's really highly inappropriate, and not even that well done, and really not even that funny. So I got about 5 minutes in and went, oh, come on.
Yeah. And, I think it brings up a great point as we look back over old movies, and you and I have talked about this more than once. We just straight up forget what was in those movies.
Or if you're really young, it maybe goes over your head, but don't think for a moment that it doesn't affect you.
No, absolutely. But even as you think about movies to play for your kids and, oh, hey, let's watch this classic from the 80s, and you get in and you're like, what in the world? I don't remember this.
I remember a story from a friend who said that they wanted to watch with her in-laws came over and they saw that The Wedding Singer was on. They're like, oh, 1980s. That's, because that was her era, her big era.
Yeah.
So she's like, oh, let's sit down and watch it. She's watching it with her pastor, father-in-law, and mother, and going, I don't remember this part.
Who picked this movie?
Or Back to the Future. Those three.
Oh, Back to the Future. Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters is drenched with sexual innuendo. Now, it's not graphic. It's not explicit. No. But it's like, oh, that's kind of nasty. Oh, that was gross.
And that's not to say that it's not hilariously funny.
It's funny. I'm not trying to be a prude, but we can forget.
But you watch it with your kids and you forget.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Goonies. I've talked about the Goonies. Man, those little kids use the S word 100 times. I mean, it's just constant. And I don't.
And speaking of Goonies,
children talking like that.
Can we end on a good note? We talked about this film a few weeks ago, and you have to maybe help me remember it. It's like Goonies set in Hawaii, and what's the name of that?
It's a Hawaiian word for family.
Ohana.
Yes, that's it. I was looking for it, but you got there before me. Yes, Finding Ohana. So if you want to watch
Ohana. I love the film. I loved that. It was a lot of fun. It feels very Hawaiian, and you get the real Hawaii, not the tourist Hawaii. You get that Ohana feel, that feeling of family, the aloha, and it's like Goonies. Just I think even better.
Yeah, absolutely. That seems like a good place to stick the landing, lest I wander off into some diatribe.
It's the redemptive.
We have diatribes. We have conversation because this media is so influential. And at Plugged In, we want to help people have the resources they need to make the good decisions for their family. And no two families are the same. It's not one size fits all. But you need to know your kids and be students of them and understand how they're wired and how they interact with story and content. And we want to be really your first stop in terms of equipping you with the tools that you need to do that well. And Michelle's gracious enough to have me on her podcast. And we also have a podcast, The Plugged In Show. So this week on our Plugged In Show podcast, we had a great conversation about the idea, it feels so right, it can't be wrong. So you can check that out, the Plugged In Show.
Yeah, and Adam's never had me on his podcast, so I am actually nicer than he is.
We need to rectify that, Michelle. Thank you for that shout out, and we will reciprocate one way or another soon.
Oh, Adam, it is always a pleasure, my brother, to have you lead us right into the weekend. And of course, go to pluggedin.com. You can find links well, pretty much everywhere you're listening to us right now.
I'm pretty cool. Plugging you into the movies, this is Adam Holmes.